This episode of Digital Photography Cafe is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe. I'm Trevor Current, your digital marketing guy.
And I'm Joseph Christina, your professional photographer.
So grab a latte, pull up a chair, and join us as we chat about the art and business of photography.
So hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Last week we talked about will.i.am iPhone camera attachment, a UK bill threatens photographers' copyright, and how to wow your customers. If you haven't listened to last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the popular Stitcher and TuneIn radio apps, and now watch on your HD TV through TiVo.
So Joe, we are back yet again, episode 83. How are you doing?
We are here. I feel like I was just here a moment ago.
I know, it's these weeks, they run together, don't they?
They do.
Especially this time of the year. Everything's moving so fast. The holidays are creeping in on us. We're already in December, you know.
Yeah, making cookies, visiting the mall, seeing that fat man in the red suit, white, beard. It's kind of exciting. My kids are
New York this time of the year is always so nice too. I mean, they did the tree lighting last week. And ice skating in Rockefeller Center there, and of course the Christmas spectacular. So we get City. I mean,
that's awesome. I mean, we get water skiing down here. We get the lighting, of the palm trees, and I don't know. It's just not the same.
I tell you what, man, with the cold weather that is rolling in up here, it's just kind of screwed this head cold of mine, and I'm still fighting it. Like weeks later, I've been bitching about this head cold for weeks now, and so I don't
want to hear about it anymore.
No, I don't want it anymore. So I may be dropping a cough here or there. So
that's
please forgive me.
Yeah.
Unprofessionalism. I don't have a cough button hooked up to this mic. So
yeah, we need to get that. The RE20 with the cough button.
That's right. That's right. The big red button.
Yeah. Yeah. Like back in the old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, this week I was looking at some of the news and some of the things that were coming out. And one of the things that were, of interest that I found was, I'm a fan of old school stuff. I'm still, I still like playing with film. Some of my fine artwork I do with film. I really like film. I like the way it looks. And, one of my absolute favorite cameras out there is the Leica. And, they had
the Leica?
I like the Leica. And they had a really cool article. The website I think that had it was I think it was Pixel or Picture Correct.
Picturecorrect.com.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. But anyways, it was an interesting little behind the scene video was kind of incorporated in this blog entry of like what it looks like at Leica, how they build these things. And when you look at it, I mean, there's people like in like bunny suits, and I mean, it's crazy, right?
Bunny suits. They're in the white clean room suits. There's no ears on them.
No, with the ears and everything.
Hopping around.
So yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting because people are like, all right, Joe, so you talk about these, Leicas, and, we go out on eBay and we buy a Leica that's like from 1935. Why is the damn thing hundreds and hundreds of dollars when, you can get all these other ones for next to, nothing? Well, the bottom line is these things are really made that good.
They're just
the German optics are just second to none. It's just amazing.
Yeah, well, that's it. Bloomberg did this behind the scenes video in the facility, which is really cool. We'll have a link to the video on that, so you can watch that as well. It's short. It's only like a couple minutes or something like that. But in it, I mean, they just some history stuff. I mean, they talk. Now they have 100 retail stores.
That's a bunch.
That's a lot. I mean, especially for such a very specialty niche item that realistically only the wealthy purchase. You know? I mean, because this is not a camera for your everyday man.
No. They were talking about it. They were doing this serious marketing push, and they've spent, millions and it seems to be working. They said that they were up like 8-fold or something in sales. So it's definitely working.
Well, it's that exclusivity, you know. I mean, they produce a very high-end product that meets a very niche market, and there's enough people out there with the discretionary cash or the need for this type of high-end compact camera that they're willing to spend it. I mean, they are beautiful. I mean, when I was down visiting you a while back, we went over to that photography store. And they had that whole Leica display, and we got to get our hands on them a little bit. And, you know, pays.
It's beautiful. I mean, if you don't know the history, I mean, Leica has been around since 1913 or somewhere right around there. You know, where this guy that, you know, originated it, you know, he was working for this German optic company, and, you know, that's his quote unquote his day job, and, you know, his love is the cameras and the optics, and he ended up putting the two together. And by 1925, you know, the first prototype of the Leica, you know, kind of hit the market as like the first compact 35mm camera. Yeah, you know, which is just, you know, that's amazing. That's back, you know, you're talking about 1925. That's a bit ago. And then 5 years later, what do they come out with? The very first interchangeable lenses. There's the screw-on interchangeable lenses. Yeah, the screw that was revolutionary.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, that's kind of what started it all for all the DSLR manufacturers after that. You know, having these twist lock interchangeable lenses on all the bodies. I mean, that's kind of where, you know, everybody was getting it from.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the, you know, it's they're, you know, Leica's known for absolutely unparalleled sharpness. Their lenses are unbelievable from edge to edge. Yeah. You know, many of the Chinese lenses, the Oriental type lenses, the lenses that come over from overseas on that side, the Asian lenses, they are, you know, they might be very, you know, a pretty good optic, but you'll find softness towards the, you know, the edges. When you have them wide open at their widest state, you know, you're getting softness. You know, these things are sharp, edge to edge, all the way down to, check this f-stop out, 0.95.
That's nuts.
You know, you're talking about wide open. Can you imagine the light that's, you know, pulling in?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. You know, and to top it all off, back in 2004, they said this in the video, they dodged bankruptcy. Because I guess they just, you know, they just weren't keeping up with the times. Everybody was going digital. They're still pushing the film. And then they finally got on board with high-end compact digital cameras. Exactly. And that really helped revolutionize Leica and keep them in business and keep them, you know, as one of these, you know, real exclusive forefront leaders.
Yeah, that saved the day. So anyways, guys, definitely go see that. You know, it gives you a little, for me, it gives me a little pause, because I look at it as like, you know, where have we come? And it gives us an idea of where we're going. And you get these people that, you know, have a day job and they want to create and innovate. And they do. These are the entrepreneurs. Yeah. These are the inventors. These are the visionaries, the people that see something, and they want to turn it into something else. That doesn't mean that they develop from scratch. You know, like I said, he's working for a German optic company, but he's marrying these things together in this method of, you know, screwing these things on. It's very cool. But you know what? You were talking about a camera shop that I had you visit when you came down down here during one of our fashion shoots that we did. Right. And they had a beautiful Leica display, and you know, talking about camera shops and camera stores, you know, God, it's a sad thing has been kind of afoot, and you know, the last, I would say, 5 to 6, 7, 8 years or so, you know, the camera stores, as you know, I know or knew them, are just kind of disappearing, right?
Yeah, they're dropping by the wayside.
It's like, what the heck's going on, Trevor?
You know, you and I and many of our listeners who are older, who grew up, you know, and learned photography with film cameras and, you know, processed our own film, printed in the dark room, purchased chemicals and paper and all that stuff. I mean, that's when we were going to photography stores. You know, we were looking at the equipment. We were looking at all the gear. I remember going in buying a copy stand because while I was in art school, the entrepreneurial spirit in me, I actually purchased a copy stand, and I was making slide transparencies of, you know, my classmates' artwork for their portfolios.
Yeah. No, and just like you said, all the chemicals, you know, so when you walk into a quote unquote camera store, you know, you have the smells that are in there. You have the equipment, from new equipment to old equipment. You might have some consignment items so you can see what the old stuff looks like. You have professionals that are in there constantly talking and, you know, chewing the fat, so to speak, about a latest job or something. You know, there's community in these camera stores that go on, and the ability for you to learn in these stores is second to none. You know, today's photographers, you know, they think that they can learn everything through, you know, going to YouTube and watching something on there, or taking like some quick seminar on, you know, online. But when you meet somebody and they teach you, let's say, how to use your camera, or show you some neat trick, and you're actually holding the camera and you're playing with the dials, and the guy or the woman is speaking to you, you cannot beat that. That interaction cannot be duplicated, I don't feel, in the digital world.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really hard, you know. I mean, we have our online communities. We have our Twitters, our Facebook pages, our groups, our forums, where everybody kind of gets together and, you know, types, you know, their chat sessions back and forth about different things and what have you. But
their rants,
you know, yeah, it's meeting people in real life, talking to them in person, and getting to know each other's personalities, and kind of building a little bit of this camaraderie. You know, I mean, there was really something to be said for that. And that was the thing. I mean, the people that owned and ran these photography stores and all the people that worked there, I mean, they were real photo enthusiasts. I mean, they loved what they were doing. And even the kids that, I mean, I had a local store by me, you know, that's what it was. It was a photography store. Then photography equipment wasn't paying the bills, so they got into VHS rentals. And then they got into DVD rentals, and then that all went bye-bye.
Right.
And now they have a very tiny, small store, 1/3 the size it used to be. And honestly, I don't even know what they're selling in there anymore.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. You know, they went from selling the cameras to all of a sudden printing stuff for, you know, 15 cents a print, and you know, the developers started, you know, disappearing also because, you know, chemicals, you know, have a shelf life. They're dated, and as soon as you mix them, you have X number of hours, X number of days, X number of minutes, whatever it is, to use it until you have to dump it. So it just wasn't feasible to develop anymore. And it's just, it's sad. It really is sad. And, you know, on the last show, I was kind of alluding to this as, you know, one of the downfalls of the camera store, as we call it, is, you know, companies like that we love. Don't get me wrong, Amazon, eBay, you know, all of these online institutions where, you know, people can actually just walk into a camera store, see something they like, hold up their phone, click scan it, you know, on the UPC code, and within a split second, Amazon gives them the same product at like a 20% discount that they'll have at their home the next day, you know, for free, you know, with Amazon.
Well, that's
Prime
it. And that's even if you can find one of these photography stores. I mean, realistically, people are walking into Best Buy, they're walking into Sears, they're walking into, you know, places that sell electronics, and they're talking to some kid who knows just enough to be dangerous and advises them poorly as to what equipment they need to get, you know, and there's no type of relationship there. No. You know, these old photography stores, if you were a regular, they get to know your name. You know, you get to know the owner's name. You get to know the people that work there because you're in there all the time. You know, you built a sense of trust with them. You know, you go into these big box stores and talk to some kid. I mean, they could care less about you. This is a job for them.
care.
They're just spewing out information that they know, and
Yeah.
and once you make your purchase and you're out that door, they don't care. You're
That's
done.
it. They could care less. And,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I liken the old camera store to the old Radio Shack.
Oh, yeah.
And if
I love
anyone
Radio
is
Shack.
like 30 plus years old, you go to an old Radio Shack and all of the geeks were always there, and they were looking at, what was the new cool robot that they can build. They're buying diodes and resistors and buying, solder and all kinds of kit robots and all kinds of stuff. And when you would go there, you would actually hang out at Radio Shack and talk with other fellow geeks, about what's the latest and greatest of, you just retrofitted your house with a burglar alarm on your Apple II Plus. Or I'm not talking about any experience or anyone.
Yeah. No.
So, but that this is the type of thing. And I feel like, the camera store is like that, it's nostalgic,
Yeah, it really is.
It's one of these things that I think that, any photographer out there right now that is, has been brought up in the digital world, if there's any way that they can go to a camera store, even if you can find one now, we only have two within like 100 miles of me, there's two.
Yeah.
But if you can find one, go in there, talk to the people, smell the smells, look around, touch and feel some of these lenses that are, older than you are. And, you'll get a kind of an appreciation of what you're doing and, where everything has come and, whose shoulders you're standing on doing the work that you're doing,
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. I mean, it's an experience you're not going to get anywhere else. And, who knows? Maybe one of these old photography stores that are still around, maybe you can build some type of camaraderie with the owner and the staff and the other people who frequent the store and maybe experience a little bit of this before that store ultimately disappears.
I know.
Yeah,
God.
sad to say.
I know. So, all right, guys, last week we were talking about 3 easy steps of, engaging your customer, and we were talking about delivering wow. So we want to kind of get into that, flesh that out a little bit more this week, kind of add to it. But I tell you what, before we do that, Trev, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
Delivering the wow to your client. So what is this all about?
Yeah. So on last week's show, we kind of touched on this whole customer experience, this whole wowing, the idea of wowing your customers so they remember you, they become a repeat customer, they become a fan, they start referring you, the whole word of mouth thing.
The super fan, right?
The super fan. Yeah. Exactly. So we kind of, gave you some questions. We say, you need to step back and look at your business from the customer's viewpoint, right, to see how you're running your business and how you're presenting yourself to the customer. And are you providing an experience that would make them say, wow? I mean, it's plain and simple. So last week we talked about basically the upfront stuff, your website, the answering the phone or not answering the phone, how you present yourself when you see them, where do you meet? Do you meet at your studio? Do you meet at another place? So definitely go back and listen to that. But now this week, we're going to kind of continue the conversation and talk more about, performing and delivering the work and then the follow-up after the work is complete.
Right. Right, right. Yeah, the idea of delivering absolutely stellar work every time, regardless if you're getting paid, top dollar or if it's for free, is paramount. I tell my clients many times that it just sounds ridiculous, but I'll tell them, I'll say, to be honest with you, your work is important to me, but what's more important is that my work comes out absolutely stellar. So
right, sure.
Me being so adamant about making sure that what I do is great every time is going to make sure that your work, the stuff that you're going to get from me, is the best possible, the best that I can produce, because I don't want it out there unless it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, you always want to put your best foot forward. I mean, unfortunately, not everything you do is going to be a portfolio piece. It's just the nature of the creative businesses. Sometimes you have to shoot something that's directed by the client that may not be your creative vision, but that's okay. If the client's happy, you know what? You did your job. So now what we want to do is look at it from the standpoint that, okay, a prospect or a repeat client has made the decision to hire you, and now we want to take it to the next level. So, are you prepared with a formal and a professional contract for them to sign, or do you just kind of perform the work and
hope for the best? Yeah. Am I going to get paid? Am I not going to get paid? That's problematic.
I think a contract, I mean, Joe, you can really speak from experience with this, but I really think a contract, a formal proposal, something in writing that they sign and agree to is really a smart way of running these businesses.
Well, yeah. I mean, not only, okay, so it's twofold. That formal contract not only protects you from getting screwed, as we say, because they don't pay, but it also gives the customer a warm, fuzzy feeling that, look, this is in black and white exactly what I'm getting. If you don't have that, you can talk about it. And then after everything is done after the fact, you're like, well, the customer could say, oh, I thought I was going to get 2 8x10s. And you come back and say, no, I'm only going to do 1. And it's like, wait a sec. So the bottom line is
he said, she said thing.
Yeah, it turns into a whole big mess. If you put it in writing, it's in black and white. It really protects both parties, and it gives some sense of comfort also to both parties. I encourage you, if you don't have a contract, you really need to put one together. There's many places you can get them for free. If you have an attorney, have it drawn up by an attorney. But there's many places you can get, especially from some of the organizations, they will give you samples that you can use for next to nothing or for nothing. So if you don't have one, you need to have one. You need to get one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And with the signing of the contract, are you getting a deposit up front?
Right.
This is the way I do business. I bill in thirds. I always get 1/3 up front. I get 1/3 at the next stage of the project, whether it be design approval or what have you, depending on the project. Right. And I get 1/3, the final third, after the project is complete.
Right. See, and for me, and here's two different ways of doing it. For me, I do a half-half, a 50-50 type of thing.
Right.
If they want to book with me, and I'm going to lock down a specific date, I don't take a 20% down or a 10% down. I actually take a 50% non-refundable chunk down for whatever the service is. It seems a lot. It seems like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could
it's
do
not
that.
A lot, because a photographer's service is different from what I'm doing. My projects are long-term projects. They could go on for a month or two. Many things that a photographer would shoot, is a day, a weekend, a few hours.
Exactly.
So yeah, your time is money. I mean, if you block out a spot for them, you want to make damn sure that they're going to show up. And if they've got 50% invested, they'll show up.
Exactly. And especially if you're, let's say, a wedding photographer out there, you have 52 weekends. This is what you have. Now we're starting to get a lot of this Friday weddings and stuff because the people are trying to save some money. So the venues are doing things cheaply on Fridays, and they're asking photographers to do likewise. But the bottom line is, you are limited to those number of days. And if you block off a day, remember that day can be asked by another client for you to shoot on that day, their work. If you turn them away, you just lost that client. So it's very important that you take a non-refundable deposit. You decide how much you take, but it needs to be there. Number one, it makes sure that the client that is coming to you asking for work, asking you to work for them, with them, is serious. Many times they'll go, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, and and can you pencil me in this date or whatever,
Right.
Years ago, I would do that, and you would find you're sitting in the studio all by yourself, and no one shows up, and you're texting them and you're calling them and asking them where they are, and all of a sudden you get you hear crickets. And then days later you're like, why didn't you show up? Oh, so and so happened. Well, I tell you what, if they have $150 that's sitting on the line, it's non-refundable. I guarantee you that person would have been there. So
yeah, that's right. And so the listeners might be thinking, well, how does this add to the wow factor? The wow factor is the professionalism. The fact that you are not flying by the seat of your pants, that you take you take your work seriously, and that you expect your clients to take your work seriously as well.
And you're giving them that contract to comfort them also in knowing what they're getting.
Absolutely.
So that is definitely part of it.
And accepting credit cards, not everybody's going to have the cash. Not everybody's going to have the money sitting in their checking account.
Sure.
And being able to accept credit cards, it makes you more professional, and it's more convenient for your customer. And now with Square and PayPal's card swiper and I think Intuit does it. I mean, a bunch of these companies do. Plug them right into your smartphone. You can scan it from your phone. You can input it if you don't have the card over the phone. It really works out well. I know you use it. I'm actually going to get it.
I actually use Square. I love Square. Some people that I know have had problems with them with disputes where they're not very, let's say, on it. You're sending emails and not getting responses, and there's no one to talk to, and there's a lot of other issues. My suggestion is, if you're going to be doing, I used to be with Card Service International. I had 2 swipe machines. We used to do a lot of money through these things. Now that we moved over to Square, doing smaller transactions, I think it's a perfect option. Sure. You don't really have to worry about it too much. Now, bear in mind here, when you're using these things, you're just paying a very small, percentage, let's say 2.5 point or whatever. But you know what? That's the cost of doing business. And remember too, if someone gives you a check, you can have possible a bounce check. If they say they're going to bring cash, well, so now what? You're going to send cash for your down, for your down payment. Taking a credit card and doing it with PayPal or something like that, and having the ability to take Discover and Amex and MasterCard and Visa all in one, it works out perfectly.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And that's something that I'm looking into doing more. I mean, most of my stuff, again, is B2B. I get corporate checks and things like that. And I've never had a problem. I mean, they're always good, and they're always, my clients are good payers. They pay, within days of the invoice. So I'm very lucky from that respect. But the convenience,
bear in mind, you were saying B2B, and I don't, the folks that are listening that do commercial work like what I do, and and they're like, well, I deal with big companies, and just like you never have a problem, whatever. I mean, I can tell you a good handful of times where I've had problems with large companies. I mean, just recently, we're having to go through a very big, let's say, law type of thing going on.
Yeah, a little legal dispute.
Yeah, well, where we have, a singer-songwriter being represented by a company, all work being rendered, and then all of a sudden that company goes belly up. And that kind of happens a lot, and because, we work a lot with, we do album covers, we're doing, we're dealing with a lot of big companies, but, just because they're big don't kid yourself in them that they're not going to pay, you know, that, or they will pay, because sometimes it just, they're notorious for getting out of stuff. And usually the bigger guys, they have an easier way out than the smaller guys. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind. You know, another thing that you have to keep in mind is the day of the shoot. You know, what do you look like? You know, are you dressed professionally? Do you have backup equipment? Is your backup equipment similar to the equipment that you're using, or is it a little point and shoot? You know, do you have like a nice shot list put together that they look like, oh, you know, you have some clue on what's going on and you're prepared and you're ready and you're ready to go? You know, these type of things really, you know, kind of set you apart in comparison to one of these photographers who are like fly by nights like we're talking about.
Absolutely. And it's not only your equipment, but it's your personality. Are you upbeat? Right. Are you in charge? I mean, do people feel confident that you're going to get the job done? You know, and that really is a key thing, because you know, people want to know they hired you, they spent money on you. You know, if you're a wedding photographer, this is a one in a lifetime shot. They want to know that they're going to get what you say you're going to give them, you know? So people like that, to know that you're going to do it. They want that confidence. They want you to, you know, present yourself confidently.
Yeah. And do you step up, you know, and go that extra mile? You know, are you the guy that is like, you know, going there and fluffing the bride's dress because the bridesmaid, the maid of honor, is, you know, in La La Land someplace, you know, tending to herself instead of tending to the bride? How many times does that happen? You know, do you go that extra mile? I mean, that people notice, you know, they notice that stuff when you go, you know, over and beyond. You know, are you the guy that, you know, the groom looks at you and says, you know, how in the hell do you do this bow tie thing? You know, you need to know. If you don't know, go learn how to tie a tie. Go learn how to tie a bow tie. If you don't know how to put on a boutonniere, go learn how to do it. Don't stab yourself in the finger and bleed all over, you know, the guy. You know, these small things turn into very, very big things. I tell you what, I was working with a makeup artist doing a bride, doing a wedding. Actually, it was a pre-wedding shoot, and the dress like ripped under her heels, and like the back was kind of hanging, and it was like a mess. And I'm like, holy crap! Now what's going to go on? You know, I don't know how. You know, I'm not a seamstress. Well, this makeup artist jumped in there and took like pins and this and that, and ended up like rebustling, putting the whole back end back together, and it was like good as new. Well, you know what? That's the makeup artist that I'm going to call the next time I need help with a bride, or even with doing a photo shoot for a model, because I know that not only is, you know, does she know how to do the hair and makeup, but she goes over and beyond. She's prepared for things that can possibly happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was in a wedding one time, and, you know, we were all like struggling to try and get those damn boutonnieres in and not stab ourselves, like you said. And, you know, the photographer comes over, he sets his camera down, he's pinning us all in, he's adjusting our ties, he's getting us all ready for the photos. And I had commented to him, I'm like, oh, wow, that's really great that, you know, you guys know how to do all this stuff. He's like, well, yeah, he says, we're full service. You know, we got to provide more than just shooting.
Right.
You know, and he's right on. And this guy is a guy who would be recommended again, because he went above and beyond. Right. You know, so, and not only, you know, as the photographer, I mean, obviously you're going to be courteous to the client, but I can't tell you how many weddings I've been at where, you know, the photographers have just been so annoyed with the guests and, you know, and family and stuff. And yeah, sometimes rightfully so. They're like, oh, they'll go get pictures of this and do that. And they're getting in the way and they're being obnoxious and stuff. But you know what? People remember that. If you kind of get a little curt with people, they're going to remember that, and they may not, you know, be so willing to recommend you the next time. Or God forbid, they start, you know, telling the bride and groom about you. You know, you told somebody to get out of the way or something, and
you know,
now they're all ticked off.
You know, there's a difference between taking control and being assertive, you know, and being professional and moving the day along in a manner that you know how it should, because you've done it. And, you know, there's a difference between that and just simply being an ass. And, you know, I'll give you an example. I mean, my wife, she's a licensed cosmetologist. One of her pet peeves is when, you know, a photographer will come up to her and, you know, she's got all kinds of makeup, just thousands of dollars of makeup. And she does, you know, not just brides, but she does, you know, high-end work with like TV and all kinds of models and actors and actresses. So she's got a lot of equipment, and the photographers love taking a picture of it. So what do? They get in there, they start moving around her crap, and she's in there, you know, trying to work on, you know, whoever she's working on. I mean, one thing, you know, not that long ago, we were at Mar-a-Lago at Trump's place, and Andrea Bocelli was there, and so she was doing hair and makeup for him, as well as, I forgot what her name was, Heather, so I don't know. Anyways, you know, the singer that was singing with him. And this is one of the things that was happening, was you get these people, they start jumping in there and start pushing people around and moving things around while she's working. And it's like, you can't do that. You need to be courteous. You need to be, you know, the guy that is assertive. No, you know, you have that shot list. You know what needs to get done in a timely manner. You know how much time you have to get it. Well, you know, if you have that extra 2 minutes and you see something is happening, don't go and just throw yourself in the mix and, you know, say, oh, you know, we're running behind, or you know, let it go a little bit. You need to know when to say when, you know?
Right, exactly. You know, and that's all great for location stuff. But now let's say you're shooting in your studio. Let's say you're doing a portrait session or a model shoot or something like that. You know, your setting, your studio is real important in how you treat them while they're there. I mean, do you offer them refreshments, or do you just kind of let them, you know, dehydrate under the lights, you know? Do you have an accessible bathroom? I mean, many people that have these home studios, maybe they're working out of their garage. I mean, are you sending them in your house to go use the bathroom? I mean, if they're there for a couple hours and you're giving them bottles of water, I mean, they're going to need the facility. So
one way or another. Yeah.
I mean, you know, make sure your studio's clean, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, the obvious stuff, but that really adds to the whole impression of your business.
Absolutely. And you know what? Once you're all done, you know, with the shoot, you know, don't go and send them to a website. You know, these websites that, you know, they're these proofing stations where people can go and view the proofs, buy stuff there, buy knickknacks, buy t-shirts, buy 8x10s, 5x6s, you know, big and large 16x20, whatever it is. You know, if you want to send them there to go as a proofing station just to proof through stuff, you know, a little bit, that's one thing, but try to get them, you know, do that as a secondary. Do that after you brought them back to your studio and you showed them on your big TV or on a projector or something, because you know what? That's the wow factor. You know, you show someone an absolute gorgeous wedding photo, you know, as big as life. It's going to be a lot more impactful than a little thumbnail sitting on a computer, which, you know, chances are isn't calibrated, and, you know, the bride is looking, you know, green. And it just does not give the right perception. Remember, you know, your final output is who you are. You need to make sure everything is stellar. And just because you're creating it at the beginning well, and you're editing it well, guess what? How they see it might not be as great as you put it together. And that is problematic. They're not sitting on, you know, color calibrated monitors. They're not sitting on huge monitors or huge displays. They might be looking on their laptop that everything is looking green or blue. That does not help you, and it doesn't help your bottom line. And it doesn't help with that, you know, that direct person to person interaction, which is very easy to upsell them to. Let's say if you're going through, let's say, a book, and then you show them on a wall this beautiful picture of the bride, let's say, they're like, oh my God, I want that. Now all of a sudden you sold them a wall portrait for $600, which you would never, ever in 100 million years do by a thumbnail sitting on their laptop.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, you've got, many of these cheap computers today, you know, that people are buying because they're just so expensive.
Because they're cheap.
They're cheap. I mean, they're cheap. They have cheap screens. The color is awful. They're slow. You've got a big gallery, and you know, you're trying to load a lot of images and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I really like the idea of doing a viewing experience Invite the couple over, invite the client over. You sit down, you relax a little bit, you have some refreshments, you have some drinks, some snacks, what have you. You sit in a darkened room, you got this beautiful, high HD TV going,
Exactly.
50-inch, 60-inch, whatever.
No, absolutely.
The bigger the better.
Bigger
Because
the
like you
better.
said, a bride seeing her portrait larger than life on the wall will make her think in her mind, oh, wow, a wall print of that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you're right. Now you just made an extra $600.
Exactly. And you think about that because people are in their mind saying, oh, well, I can't feed these people. I can't get them drinks and it's going to be too expensive and I'm going to have to sell 2 prints just to pay for this and that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The bottom line is even if they buy nothing and you brought them in and you treated them in that manner, the chances of them referring you back to the referral process, referring you to their friend, family, loved one, someone else is much higher than if you just talk to them on the phone. Guaranteed.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? When all's said and done, ask them about their experience with your company. Maybe have them fill out a survey if you're that organized.
Sure.
Ask them for
That's
a
definitely not
testimonial.
me.
And then ask them for the referral.
Right.
Say, we would love, if you really enjoyed your experience with us, we tried hard, we want to make sure that everything was to your liking. If you enjoyed us, please recommend us to your family and friends.
Absolutely. So we have a little bit more to talk about here, right?
Yeah. So we've got the 2 other steps. So kind of the second step is offering them a follow-up product or service that will give you a reason to stay in touch with them.
Exactly.
So it's kind of, put your thinking caps on, kind of, think about that between now and, in an upcoming show when we'll do it. I don't know if we're going to do it on the next show, but, soon we're going to kind of explore this a little bit more. And, because that's what will entice customers to keep in touch.
Exactly.
So.
You got to get them constantly, speaking to you, and you have to continue to be able to speak to them. Yes. And that goes back to the whole constant contact thing, or any of these type of methods where you can email them on a regular basis on their wedding day, for their anniversary, on their birthdays, on and any time that you possibly have the ability to write them something, you really need to do that. Keep that communication and keep them, keep you on their front burner. So if someone asks, what photographer, they don't have to say, oh, it's that guy, he had like a faux hawk or something.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
I don't remember his name. But if you constantly have this contact with them, they'll know the name.
Yep,
and they won't forget you. Absolutely.
That's right. All right, man. Good stuff. I think it's time to cut it. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate your support in the show. I mean, the show has been growing great. We've been saying that. And every month it's just growing and growing. The numbers are really adding up now. So we want to thank everybody for listening. If you are an Apple user, an iTunes user, if you're not subscribed to the show, head over to iTunes. You can subscribe right there. If you're listening to the audio, maybe check out the video. It looks beautiful on the new iPhone 5. It plays in HD. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you're not an Apple user, you can grab an RSS feed, put it on your Zune or any of your other MP3 players, MP4 players. Looks amazing. HD stuff, man.
I know. It's good.
So Joe, how can people connect with you to, ask you some questions and learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah. So if you want to tell me that I'm an idiot or send me a question or somehow get in contact with me, go ahead and find me on Twitter, because I love Twitter. That's where I'm at most of the time. So go to @JosephChristina, and that would be Christina without an H.
Great. And you can keep up with me on Twitter, and it's @TrevorCurran.
Awesome, Treb. That is show 83 in the can. Wow, we're getting up there, getting close to that 100 mark.
Yes, we are.
Oh my God. Great show as always, bro. Great show. If you guys have any questions or topics that you would like discussed on next week's show, send us a message through our website, digitalphotographycafe.com. Or you could connect to us, of course, on Twitter. We love Twitter, @DPhotoCafe. If you're listening on the go, fear not. Everything that we discussed in this week's show can be found in our show notes at our website. Once again, keep your questions and comments coming, and we'll talk to you next week.